Mrs. Richardson Pratt, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to know her? And I know you've told me some of the
yes,
things.
actually, at the time that I met her, I was working for the Nassau County Youth Board in New York State Division for Youth. Also, I had started in 1965 working for the Office of Economic Opportunity, and which is the EOC, and back in the time and era of the anti-poverty programs, Sergeant Shriver, the Kennedys were really big, and I too, like our president was a community organizer. You know, I take offense when people were criticizing him and the fact that, oh, he was a community organizer, but I am really proud of the fact that I had that opportunity, and it got me involved in community work, community activists. I worked for the, I started out actually as a custodian, because they were just setting up at 2 Mason Drive and the projects, which was Dan Daly Projects up in Glen Cove Avenue. Right. And then adjacent to that is now Kennedy Heights. And I lived there, and I was living there and working for the Office of Economic Opportunity when I met Mrs. Pratt at a meeting.
Now, when was this, in the 70s?
Yes. Yes, it was in the 70s, like 1970, 71.
Okay.
And it was at a meeting at the YMCA, and it was for a intercity bus transportation, which is called the Loop. It was called the Loop at the time. And they had this program the previous year, and they were trying to get sponsoring for the year, that particular year. And a co-worker of mine, Mrs. Mary Austin, she says, "David, there's someone I want you to meet." And you know, I had not a clue. And we were all around the desk before the meeting, and she brought me over to Mrs. Pratt. And she said, "This is David Buchanan, this is Mrs. Pratt. He's the fellow I was telling you about. He's working with the youth in Glen Cove." And, you know, it was good for my head, my ego. I was young and I was active and, you know, involved, and still not knowing who Mrs. Richardson Pratt was. And so from that, we developed a rapport, and she knew about my work in the community, and she asked me to a meeting at her house, a meeting for the Boys Club coming into Glen Cove. And so sure, and Mrs. Suozzi, Supreme Court Justice's wife, was there. She was a volunteer and did a lot of work in the community of Glen Cove, and I worked with her quite a bit. And at this meeting, we were all sitting around at Mrs. Pratt's house, her summer place, and a guy comes in and he apologized, "Excuse me," you know, he says, "Okay, come on in, come on in." And it was her clock winder. She introduced her clock winder. I said, "Okay," you know. And so, and then she went to tell a story about a couple of the clocks, one that was on one of her yachts. And interesting, of course. And then there was a Dr. Hayden, and one of the founders of the Boys Club for Locust Valley was there, and my director, Joseph Forty at the time, and it was a very, very good meeting. So as we got on into the meeting, she says, well, I asked Mr. Buchanan to be here because he runs the youth program in Glen Cove, community youth program. And so she says, Mr. Buchanan, I'd love for you to speak. So I said, well, as you know, my program is co-ed. It's boys and girls. And it's great that we could have a brand new facility come into Glen Cove, a boys club. But my concern is the girls. What's going to happen to the girls? And she says, very good question, Mr. Buchanan. And so we got on with the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, she says to me, she turned to me and she says, it will be the Glen Cove Boys and Girls Club. So I feel honored right now as we speak, because I was very much a part of that happening, becoming the Boys and Girls Club. And she also did a personal favor for me and my family. And she was responsible for me getting my first house. And again, you know, as I sit here and speak now, you know, I just feel so honored to have met such a beautiful person. And I tell people, next to my mother, she is the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life. You know, to care and extend herself to the community to that degree, not only with donations and contributions, but I mean, you know, like rolling up your sleeves, that sort of stuff. And I, of course, you know, I after I had the closing and everything, and you know, we were in the house, I bought her a Christmas gift, 2 Christmas gifts. And what do you buy a millionaire? I don't know, but I found a brooch and a scarf. And I called her. She was in Europe, and this was before she went to Europe. She says, when I came back, I found the letter and the gift, and I just was so honored. So she had us over, and me and my kids, and we thanked her again, and she says, oh, such a beautiful gift, I loved it. You know, so that was a hit. I was happy that she enjoyed, you know, and yeah, so it's and this was a part of my community community aid, community worker life, community organizing. And then from there I went into the youth program, Nassau County Youth Board, New York State Division for Youth.
If I could interrupt you for just a second,
sure.
Just for the record, so to speak, I wanted to mention that you had given me a copy of the letter, the thank you letter that Mrs. Pratt wrote to you, which was very nice.
Yeah,
very gracious.
yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
It's something I cherish, of course.
Sure.
And people, to mention a few names that I've worked with over the years, and like I said, and first of all, you know, giving honor and thanks to my almighty creator and heaven and earthly father, and my mom and dad, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Henry Buchanan Sr., and what they've given me in life, and something I'll always remember, and it's always been etched in my brain. my parents never talked about race, ever. And my dad used to say, if you can't say something good about a person, don't say anything at all. I'll never forget. And it brings me right to today with times that we do have in life and in society. And it's so, life is simple, and this is a quote of mine. It's very simple. People complicate life. and all you gotta do is think about it. And I love everybody. It was the way I was brought up, the way I was raised, the way that the image that my mother and father presented. And this was throughout the community of Glen Cove. And a relationship with Marge, Mrs. Suozzi, and we used to call her Marge. I remember one time I was out on Glen Cove Road, a friend of mine, and we were stuck. Something happened to his car. And Supreme Court Justice Joseph Suozzi was on his way to his office. He saw us. He made a U-turn and came back and said, "David, you all right? You need any help?" I mean, things like this you don't forget. And the Supreme Court judge going to his office, he's seen me. It's not like, he didn't see me and he kept going. He turned around and it's etched in my brain and it'll always be there.
Sure. People
like that. And Abe Krasnoff, president of Paul Corporation. My wife, my first wife, out of high school went to work for Paul Corporation. And with my work in the community and Abe Krasnoff being on boards of some of the programs I worked for, we connected and we had a very good working relationship. And he's helped me with some things when I had I established a band with some of the teenage boys, and he helped me out with monies for equipment. And I said, well, Abe, I have this dream. When I was talking to him and doing my spiel about, I need a little help. He says, yeah, David, he says, never stop dreaming. And I always remembered that.
Sure.
And he helped us out. And also, a friend of mine, Howard Davis Jr., who was an Olympic gold medalist from Glen Cove. His father and I were very, very close. His father was my best man when I got married. His grandmother was an ordained minister. She married me. Mm-hmm. And ironic as it was, my first house was right across the street from her. So she kept me kind of on the straight and narrow. And Abe and Paul Corporation was very instrumental in getting Howard Sr. and I to the Olympics in Montreal at the time. And they financed that trip along with Ann Irving, I believe, of the Nassau County Youth Board, who I was a working colleague. And so it's just been so many people,
right.
Over the years. Sid Lesney of Simon Sports Shop in Glen Cove, which was his father-in-law's business, and he took it over. And again, tremendous in helping out with equipment and giving stuff to the kids in the community. And my co-workers at the EOC, 4 people from Seacliff. I have to thank them all. One was Terry Danberg. She came in and she did, we had a program where we had a cooking program and teaching the kids how to cook. And also we would take them out to dinner once a week. We would choose and select certain people and You teach them how to do place settings and the whole nine, how to tip. And it was good. I mean,
Sure.
it brought a culture and an extended part of life to a lot of these kids that maybe would never been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
We took them on field trips like to the Westbury Music Fair. We took them to off-Broadway plays. We had a music appreciation program where we taught the kids musical instruments. I had a personal friend, Steve Alterman, who was a music major at C.W. Post, and he and his wife was a photographer, and they came over. She taught photography, he taught music and music appreciation, and these are the kids that we took to the Westbury Music Fair for concerts and what have you. And it was just, you know, when I think back, I just think about how blessed and honored I was to work with these kids and these people. Right down here somewhere, off Red Spring Lane, on Red Spring Lane, I had the pleasure of meeting and working with, she was a volunteer, Mrs. Beal, Jackie Kennedy's cousin. All I never knew her real name, but we used to call her Chickie Beal. And I don't know who donated it, but I went to pick it up at her house on Red Spring Lane. A brand new Volkswagen van. And just like it happened yesterday.
Sure.
Also down on Red Spring Lane, I had the pleasure of meeting and knowing Arthur Lowe's, of Lowe's Theater. And I met him. I was told to go down and see Mr. Lowe's, and he also gave me a check pertaining to my house. And they said, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. He gave me an envelope. But I mean, it's just, when I think about then, I think about today, and I think about all we can do for one another as Americans and as people and caring about people.
Right.
And other people that are not as fortunate as we are. And, you know, there's, you know, my friendship and times with Howard Davis Sr. and Jr. Howard Davis Sr. was a trainer. He trained kids in Glen Cove boxing. He was a very, very good amateur boxer. His son was fortunate enough to go on to the Olympics and become a gold medalist. While he was in the Olympics, his mom's died, and it really shattered him, of course, and the family and his father. And he didn't know what to do, and he really wanted to go to Montreal and be with his son, although he couldn't physically be there to train him and everything, but just to be there.
Right.
And he come to me one day and he said, David, I got a call from Nassau County Youth Board and they want to know how they can help me. And then Abe Krasnoff at Paul Corporation. I said, no problem. I know Ann and we'll work it out. So next thing you know, we had tickets going up Montreal. And at the time there was a protest. The athletes were protesting. There was demonstrations going on. They had very tight security. So we, and it was a late reservation. We ended up staying at one of the colleges there on campus. And when we got there, we were driven to the arena where they were fighting. And they wouldn't let us in. He identified himself, but you know, with the tight security. So this fellow named Aaron Pryor, who was one of the Olympic trial finalists, and my friend Howard Davis from Glen Cove beat him to go to the Olympics.
Right.
He happened to be walking by, and Howard's father says, that guy's good. He says, Howard just beat him. He called Howard John. He just beat him to go to the Olympics. And you know, and then we were all sitting with celebrities, and we sat next to Sugar Ray Leonard's parents. I don't know if you remember Sugar Ray Leonard. And I was also sitting next to Andy Williams, the singer. We were all, you know, so.
We're in a good section.
Yeah, right, great section.
Yeah.
And, you know, Howard and his dad, when my mom's died, Howard Sr. and Junior, they came and got me, and they were going to California. Howard was fighting in California, and they took me to California for a week, which was great, you know, and I hung out with them and a couple of other Olympic gold medalists, the Spinks brothers, and Ray Leonard. And it was good. And also, when my dad passed away, Howard Jr. came to me and took me away from what I had been doing all day, the previous day, and the other days leading up to us making arrangements and everything. And he says, "Come on, I made arrangements and taking you to brunch in the city, meet some friends." And it was just good people in my life,
yeah,
all the time, you know. So I'm a very, very firm believer of close family and friends. I really, really believe in that.
Yeah.
And this is what my life is based on and geared towards. And so, you know, with people that I've mentioned, I just feel good for this opportunity, and I would love to say I honor these people. Like I said, from my parents on down to everyone that's touched me in my life. Yeah.
Let me ask you, if we go back a little bit, tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up. You were in Glen Cove.
Born and raised in Glen Cove.
No, when were you born?
Born 1940, February 1st.
Okay. And you grew up here in Glen Cove. What were some of the memories you have from childhood in particular, whether they had to do with just living in the area, with school, people you remember, teachers or classmates?
Teachers, 3 teachers in particular that was a great impact on my life. You know, most kids are mischievous, somewhat, and I mean no exception. And I was kind of a bully. You know, I don't know why I acted out, because my mother and father would have taken care of that right away. But you know, I mean, I was a great athlete. I didn't realize how good of an athlete I was until recent years, maybe 10 years ago. I'm having a conversation with a friend of mine that I went to school with. We were very close. He went on to be a very successful businessman. He told me that he was going into this business, and at the time I had just started the limousine business, and I had 2 limos, and I'm struggling to make payments on these limos, which were like mortgages.
Right.
And he says, you know, I'm going into business. I got a partner, but I'm going to try and bring you in and give you a piece of the business. Oh, okay. I didn't pursue it. I didn't pressure him about it. And as a matter of fact, I had showed you a T-shirt that I had designed some years ago, and I'm been procrastinating on that. But anyway, I had gone to his father. I had a meeting with his dad, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do with this?" I said, "Well, I'd like to make some T-shirts and make some money, and of course, spread my idea to the world about world peace. That's something I really believe in." And so anyway, Dad says, "Oh, I know, you should go after that Williams guy." What are you talking about? Montel Williams. I said, okay, well, yeah, if I'm gonna go that route, I may as well go after Oprah Winfrey. So then he said, oh, I know who you can talk to. Neil. I said, Neil who? My son, Neil. Neil's on the stock market. He's worth a lot of money. I said, well, tell Neil to call me. Next time, he called me, and next time he came to New York, we talked, but I still didn't get my t-shirts printed, But Neil is, people change when they get money sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talk, he lost his younger brother, and I called him, and he was very touched to hear from me, and But Neil and I were very good friends, and he was the one that told me about, yeah, David, man, when we were younger, you knew how to talk to the girls, you know how to talk to the teachers, you can get out of detention, you were a good athlete, you could play anything, but it didn't register, and it didn't mean anything to me. I could play football, I could throw a football, I could throw a baseball, I could play any position on baseball field except catch. I didn't want to get back there.
That was smart.
Yeah, right? And then soccer, I was good at soccer. And it was just a lot of natural ability, I guess. Yeah. And then later on in life, when these two brothers in particular that used to beat me up, I learned how to box. That's how I met Howard Davis Sr. He taught me how to box. And I was good at that. And and then today, to this very day, I keep in touch with some old school friends. One friend in particular, Richie Bandel, who lives down in Georgia. And I don't know how we connected, but through a friend, Billy Berger, who's deceased now, and it just really shocked me when I found out that he had passed away, because we connected down in Georgia. My baby girl lives in Georgia, and I'm down there quite a bit. And Billy Berger, Richie Bandel and I, we hooked up at a pub down there, and we just reminisced about everybody we went to school with, the good, the bad, and everything. And it was like, these were my brothers.
Sure.
Okay, these are two Caucasian men that I went to school with. It wouldn't have made a difference if I was blind, because it was like family.
Right.
These people were my extended family and still are today. I just finished talking with Richie about 2-3 days ago, and I told him I was up here. He said, "Oh, I'm coming up." I said, "Well, I'll be gone when we get here." But we've been missing each other. But we connected down there, and a couple of my granddaughters graduated. He came over to the cookout after the graduation. My daughter got married. He came over to the wedding reception and the wedding, and we stay connected, and a lot of other friends, here in Glen Cove.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: you were born in 1940, so you were growing up during the period of the Second World War and right after and so forth. What was it like here in Glen Cove during that period, and are there any particular memories you have of life in Glen Cove and how it might have been affected by the war?
Well, I remember vividly when the war was over. My dad had a truck, a flatbed truck. We used to take hay rides on it, and everybody piled up on the truck, and we just rode around Glen Cove, blowing the horn and shouting and cheering, and full of joy, of course. And I remember that quite well. And teachers, you asked about teachers earlier. 7th grade teacher, junior high, Mrs. Maker, she would, David, you behave yourself. I'll never forget that. I never done anything really, really bad. You know, just kid stuff, you know, guys, we're all guys, you know, and Mr. Casper, English teacher, were very, very good, and would talk to me and my schoolmates, and Mr. Lamberson, phys ed teacher. David, you do the right thing, blah, blah, you know, that kind of stuff. And it was always good, and I still remember to the day. And then, you know, back to my years as a community organizer and a program director for the youth program, we used the facility of the Y, the pool, basketball courts, and you know, because in the project, of course, and then we had the Lincoln Settlement House, which was a property that I just learned about this year, that the Pratts donated that. That was a community a settlement house for the blacks, actually, that the Pratt family donated and built. And that's where the property, where the new Boys and Girls Club is now. And so, but from before that or after that, I'm not exactly sure, when one night at the YMCA there was an incident, and it was racial, but wasn't ugly racial. You know, it was a black kid and a white kid that had a fight, and it led over into the high school the following day, and it got a bit heated. And me working for the running the youth program, the school hired me to work out of the school facilities and put a lid on things and bring the kids back together, which we did. And after a couple of weeks, and from that, there was some good that came out of that all around. Some of the demands that we requested, and one in particular that I was very instrumental in making happen with, along with the superintendent at the time, Dr. Finley, and the assistant superintendent, Fred Dipple, all great people, thank God. And from that, I got Martin Luther King's birthday as a legal holiday for Glen Cove School District. A lot of people don't know that, including some of my kids. And I really feel good about that. You know, other people that did work in Glen Cove that I respect and honor is James Davis, who was president of the local NAACP, and also marched in Selma, I believe, with Martin Luther King. There's Joe Johnson, who was also involved with the NAACP locally, and graduated Tuskegee. You know, and it's just in a multicultural city that I grew up in. You know, Italian, Polish, Irish. These are all my friends, and I love it, man. I just feel it's the wealth that I didn't get that Neil got. But, you know, the wealth of love of people and connection and caring. And I just can't stop repeating myself about how fortunate I was.
Yes.
And you know, when I do go to church here in Glen Cove, First Baptist Church I belong to, where my father was very, very active, you know, as a missionary, as a deacon, and every time I go, I see my grandma's name, and I try and sit near the window where it's etched. And she was one of the founders. You know, my grandma and granddad were born in South Carolina, as well as my mother and father. And my granddad came here years ago. He lived down near Aiken, South Carolina, which is big horse country. He trained horses and bird dogs. And obviously there was some kind of connection between the folks down there that owned thoroughbred horses and people here in Brookville, where he ended up working on a property in Brookville. In the turn there on 107, there's the horse stables there. That's where my grandfather worked, and that's where he died.
Did he move to New York to do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And I remember as a kid, I can smell my grandfather now, just the scent from working in the stables. Yeah, I was like 4 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he died, I believe, I think it was in 44. But I remember my grandfather from that, you know.
Something I'm curious about, because I'm teaching a course now on the social history of rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that revolution in the 50s, the rock and roll coming along? And it's, because you would have been, obviously in 1955, about 15 years old.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that?
Well, at the Lincoln House. This is where we gathered. We all our social gatherings, and actually we had socials, which was, we teenagers would have a dance. We would do a dance at the Lincoln House. And
Now,
sell tickets.
Were these sock hops? Do
Yeah.
you remember that term?
Oh yeah.
Take off your
The
shoes.
girls would, and the girls with the skirts and the flare skirts and the bobby socks and the black and white shoes and oh man, yeah, and we would put the penny loafers and oh man. I mean,
Do you remember in terms of the music? Is anything in particular? I mean, again, that was I remember the first time Elvis Presley appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, and lying on the floor in the den with my brother and my parents just being horrified. But as far as that music and what was happening then, certainly for youth culture, anything in particular you remember about that?
Yeah, well, Otis Redding.
Yeah.
I remember Sam Cooke. I remember Frank Sinatra. I got to find this album. I remember Frank Sinatra giving props to Sam Cooke, and Frank Sinatra said, "This man has the finest voice and one of the greatest singers I've ever heard in my life." So that was a big.
Sure.
Frank Sinatra was big for him to say that, and Little Richard, and it was just so much. I also remember, and I have to mention this, it was a lot of prejudice in the entertainment business in that field back then.
Yes.
Going back to Josephine Baker and what she went through, and entertainers appearing at places where blacks couldn't even buy a ticket to go, and the entertainers had to come in the back door or walk through the kitchen. How times have changed.
Here in Glen Cove?
That
was just
the atmosphere in general.
Yeah.
In Glen Cove, I never personally experienced racism. Not in my lifetime. Not here in Glen Cove. If you did something wrong in school, you could get a swat on your hand, be you black, white. There wasn't too many Asians. I think there was one family. or Hispanic, but it was a multicultural society. You said Italian, Irish, Jewish, and one of the cliches, people. Well, some of my best friends were black. Well, some of my best friends were white, but I can honestly say it.
Yeah.
and still to today.
Right. We
Yeah.
talked about this a little bit the other day, and
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. You
Oh,
said that what a great thing it was to have that kind of diversity in a multicultural community during that time.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes, yes, yes. Roy Campanella, I knew Roy Campanella, I met Roy Campanella. Roy Campanella's stepson, his wife's son, David, and I went to school together. He lived on Morgan's Island.
Right.
I've been to Roy's house, and a matter of fact, I have a friend on Morgan's Island right now who lived there for some time, and he was one of the kids that I met at the high school when I was working for the youth board, and then I got the job at the high school. And David Weinstein, he still lives there. Matter of fact, I haven't called him since I've been here, and when I call him, he's going to be horrified. He said, "What are you talking about? You been here a month and you haven't called me?" He goes, and I've been very tempted, but I've been busy with my own personal stuff. And because he was telling me how he go swimming for his clams and lobster even. I said, well, because I went to his house one day and he had all of these clams out there. I said, oh man, I love seafood. Yeah, well, we'll get together. So I got to give him a call. But it's been great. It's really been great. And then I met you.
That tops it.
Right? And I really don't, well, I think what drew me down here was I was actually looking for, and I still am, and I gotta figure this out. Mrs. Pratt had a daughter, and I never met her, but ironically, my father's sister, the person that Mrs. Pratt's daughter married, my father's sister was the housekeeper for a Mr. Paul Barringer, and he had two sons, Minor and I'm trying to think of the other. He had two sons, and Mrs. Pratt's daughter married one of them. And I drove for Mr. Barringer a couple of times, and he told me some stories about. I think his brother was an engineer on one of the bridges, one of the popular bridges in Manhattan that his brother was an engineer on. And, you know, driving back and forth to Manhattan, he would tell me stories. And you see that bridge there? You know. So there was just a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff, a lot of good people, you know. So, I don't know. I did take some notes, but I think I covered just about everything, you know.
Okay.
And answered any questions that you may have, you know. And, you know, people like, when I started working for the EOC, it was an agency, it was called Family Service Association, and the Family Service League. And Dr. Ambasino, he was the director, and Mrs. Ruth Caress, assistant director. And then when I ended up going into the youth work, it was Joseph G. Forty that came over from the youth board, and he had all of the credentials and social work and background in youth work, and he taught me quite a bit. He literally took me into his office and taught me. I had an opportunity to go to college a couple of times, and during the crisis that I was having with my family, living in Mason Drive, when the drug problem started happening, I panicked and I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get my family out of there. Here it is, I'm playing father and big brother to 250, 300 kids and teenagers, and I'm concerned about my own. And this is when, in conversation at a meeting, I was kind of feeling down, and Ms. Pratt recognized it, and we talked about this, and that's when she offered to help me. And the director of the YMCA at the time, Simon, she said to me, well, anyone you know that you can discuss your personal life and business with, have him call me. And he called her, and he called me back, David, what's going on? And I explained to him, and then that happened. I got myself a house. I got out of the projects, and I mean, I never left the community.
Right.
I relocated because
Right.
that's basically where my work was, where the kids were, and then we were fortunate to get our own facility, and that was the old fire department in Glen Cove on West Glen Street. And initially when we went in, we had the upstairs, and it was huge for us, and that's when I think I shared with you programs that we had there.
Yes.
And so it was very, very, very interesting, and the things that I achieved, and the people that I worked with to help me achieve these things.
Was the, I mentioned to you the other day, Watts, the World of Tomorrow School,
Yeah.
which I guess began right around 1970 or a few years before, is that correct?
Yes, and if my mind served me well. Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to mention here, that I never graduated high school. I was a dropout. They came into, they brought the program into Glen Cove, the GED, and I was encouraged by my director, of course, and other people to take the GED exam. I did that, and I got my GED. I had a couple of offers to go to college, one from Dr. Finley, and one also from the YMCA, but at the time, it was during the time of my transition of getting out of the projects and getting my family stable, and
Right.
so I never did pursue the opportunity of college. And I don't really have any regrets because of the rich culture that I did endure in my lifetime. And then there's a lot of educated fools out here. I don't know if you know that or not.
I've met some of them.
Starting, starting in politics and in the Senate and Congress, and so it's a touchy subject. But I mean, of course, there's a lot of great people. Edward Forehand, he was from Hereford, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He was blind, and he came here. He played guitar, outrageous guitar player, and he Percy Sledge, Otis Redding, Bobby Womack, Sam Cooke, Sam and Dave.
Sam and Dave.
We did some of his tunes. Matter of fact, my Howard Davis Sr.'s brother, my sister Henrietta, Edward Forehand, they called him Little Buster. He was on a circuit in Long Island. He was a very, very good musician. And he played with, he's got a club in Manhattan, blues. Oh God, I can't.
I was going to say, is that the Little Buster who's still around?
No, he
Same one?
passed away. But he sang at Oh, God. The blues guitar player. He's still alive.
Chuck Berry?
No.
B.B. King?
B.B. King.
Okay, okay.
He played with B.B. King, and B.B. King told me, he says, Buster, when you go to Europe, you're going to hit it big. He said, they love us over there. And in any event, my sister Henrietta, Buster, James E. Davis, and myself, we won first place at the Apollo Theater. And we won an opportunity to record for Motown.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I got that clipping somewhere, and Althea Gibson handed us the awards that we won.
Wow.
And it was sponsored by Tip Top Bread.
Yeah.
And Hal Jackson was the MC. So, yeah.
What was the name of the group?
The Heartbreakers.
The Heartbreakers.
I got a news clipping somewhere.
I wish we could all harmonize right now.
Yeah. Right? And the acoustics would be great.
Yeah.
And it turns out that there's a student Irene had in 1970, 71, who still keep at the Watts School, Eddie Harvey, that we still keep up with after all these years. It turns out that David knows Eddie Harvey.
Yeah,
Small
and just seen him last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's unbelievable. The Ed Sullivan Show.
That's what I'm
There's a
asking.
lot of good stuff on Ed Sullivan Show.
Everything from dancing bears to opera singers.
Yeah, and spinning plates.
Yeah,
My
right,
favorite.
right. But it's just so, when you think back and think about today in the society that we live on, and everything was so simple. You know, and getting back to my statement earlier, life is very simple. People complicate life. And God rest his soul, from the words of Rodney King, can't we all just get along? And, but for the most part, I am a firm believer, and I believe this. There are more good people on this planet Earth than there are bad people. No one can convince me anything.
Right.
In 1972, and I'm not that great with dates, but in 1972, and like what made me think about it is he's been in North Carolina since the 60s.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was 1972. My dad, my oldest brother, and my youngest brother and I, we went down to South Carolina, my father's home. And on the way down, the ritual was, we would stop in Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and visit my father's cousins. And we had stopped in Washington, D.C., and my brother, Henry, a very close friend of his, Joseph Pettis, his father was the pastor of Church of God in Christ on Cottage Road. And he and my brother went into the Air Force together. They were very close coming up. And so whenever we would go to D.C., we would stop and make contact with Joe. He worked for the Justice Department. So this day we went down to the Justice Department to see him for lunch. And we were hanging out and talking, and he says, hey man, you guys want to go upstairs? I'll take you up there, you can meet Hoover. And then I'll take you down to the shooting range, give you a little tour. And my brother said, nah, we really don't have time for that. I don't know why I allowed that to happen. And he goes, hey, Henry, we're here, let's go, take the tour. And so anyway, when we got back home, I was telling my dad about it. And then, the next morning, that night we left to go to South Carolina. And got up the next morning, my dad was in the dining room at the table, and we got up to have breakfast, and Father put the newspaper on the table, and Hoover, dead. I said, maybe it's good we didn't go meet him. But I mean, can you imagine? We were, 5 minutes from going to meet Hoover. And next day we see him so that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Of course, I have my insight and feeling about Hoover's assassination, well, JFK's assassination, Bobby's assassination. I have my feelings about all of that stuff, Martin Luther King's assassination. And Hoover, they said in documents, which you can go online and get now, and back when I got this information, it was hush hush. It was the Gemstone files. And it said in there that they suspected that Hoover was poisoned because he liked apple pie, and cyanide smells like apple pie. So that's part of my life story and travels throughout these United States of America.
Wow.
And that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not good on dates, but I remember that date, 1972, because my dad had a brand new wagon, and just a couple of more people that were very, very influential in my life, and one was Mrs. Sylvia Young. She wrote articles for the local paper, and she was also a volunteer at the community center at 2 Mason Drive, and that was before we got the facility at the old firehouse. And we had tutorial programs there, and that's where I started as a group worker before I became program director. And as a matter of fact, I just recently was looking through some old papers that I had and articles, and I saw her name, you know, so it gave me some thoughts that I would mention her.
Yes.
And another very, very, very big important person in my life who was a very close friend and a mentor, and his name was Alan Hudson. He was a gentle giant. He was a boxer, and matter of fact, Howard Davis Jr.'s father trained him as well.
Yeah, was he from Glen Cove?
He was from Glen Cove, yes, yes. And he went into the military. Prior to going into the military, he was a 4-time Golden Glove champion. He was AAU champion. He was all Army, all service champion for 3 or 4 years, I believe. This was in the 60s.
Wow.
Actually, he was the first man to knock down Cassius Clay. and of course now Muhammad Ali. And if anyone, including myself, ever got the opportunity to speak to Muhammad Ali, although he's sick now, but he would remember, and he always mentioned in interviews, and when they asked him what was the hardest punch he ever took, and it was Alan Hudson. And a lot of people didn't know, but Alan Hudson's his right hand was broke, and he had shot it up with Novocaine. So when he fought Ali, he was fighting him for the Olympic trials. And I remember a very, very popular referee. His name is Mills Lane. I'm watching TV one night, and he came on, and he was talking about Alan Hudson. He says, a lot of people, he says, one of the greatest fighters I've ever known was Alan Hudson, right here from New York. He lives on Long Island. And he said this was a terrific fighter. And that, you know, of course, made me feel good. I know this guy personally. We grew up together.
Sure.
And he has a son, Alan Hudson Jr., who's assistant principal at Glen Cove School District. So he's a legend of mine. And I remember one year he got me. He always get me to do something. Not because he's bigger and badder than me, but he was just a nice person. Everybody loved him. And he said, David, come on, I want you to go. I need you to help me do something. All right, what do you got to do? Well, I'm campaigning for this guy, you know. Well, who are we campaigning for? Tom Suozzi. And at the time, I didn't know Tom personally. I knew his mom and dad. And he says, I says, okay. So that was when he first ran for mayor. And I do believe he won, and Alan Hudson got me involved again with the Suozzis. But it was all good.
It turned out you know Eddie Harvey.
Yeah, right.
Who's a mutual friend.
Yeah,
And I'm just curious, at the Watts School, do you remember Miss Ben? The teachers there?
Yes, vaguely to me.
Benanati.
Right.
And she's my wife.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I know Eddie.
Yeah,
But,
right. It's ironic because I just ran into Eddie last week sometime.
Right.
And he's a good kid.
Yeah.
He's a prime example of taking the right path.
Right.
And he's quite a young man, and he kind of looked up to me because he knew my work in Glen Cove and everything.
I know she was very popular.
Yeah.
With the students, and many of those students, would call her or see her in the grocery store or somewhere else and go on to the middle school. They'd see her for years, and the parents would call. And I remember one kid she had in, I guess, 5th grade, and the mother called 6 or 7 years later and said, I just want you to know that our son got into MIT.
Yeah.
And he's going to be majoring in math, and that's one of the subjects that she taught.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious whether you...
Yeah, well, and that's the circle of commerce, of interconnections and chemistry of life, and your wife's work has proven that, students, you impact people's lives.
Sure.
And they don't forget that. And that's a good thing, especially with teachers, because teachers are one of the primary people on this planet that touch people's lives.
Right.
And in the formative years.
Right.
So if you have good chemistry and good relationships, that goes with you all your life.
Yeah. I know in Joan Harrison's photographic history of Glen Cove, there's a picture of my wife when she was Miss Benanati, Miss Ben, with her class from Watts.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance to get that, you'll...
I definitely I definitely have to do that. And again, something ironic is Joan Harrison, a friend of mine, and I had mentioned her early on. Her name is Jerry Alterman, and she ran the photography class at my program. She introduced me to Joan Harrison a couple of years ago, and here it is, in the circle and network that we're involved with, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And again, I just want to say, in conclusion, that being born in Glen Cove, Long Island, and being blessed with the parents that I had and the people that I've met, they and worked with in my work career in Glen Cove, are some of the best people on the planet, and I honor them all. They brought nothing but integrity and love to the people and the city of Glen Cove. And I'm honored to be here with you, Professor Harris, and it's been a pleasure.